People ask a question in the context of both personal and professional relationships. They usually don't say it out loud, but it's always there. Am I better off with you or without you? Today I want to explore that question from both sides of a specific relationship, the relationship between a physician and the financial advisor who helps them build wealth. The reality is that few medical students or residents or even fellows work with a financial advisor. However, once physicians step into their true earning potential, they quickly see an explosion in the complexity of their financial lives. Plus, they have more to lose. Physicians reach milestones in which they ask, right now at this stage of my career, am I better off working with a financial advisor or building wealth on my own? So today, let's have a conversation comparing and contrasting wealth building as a DIY project versus working with a professional financial advisor you hire. If we haven't met, I'm Dr. Vicki Rackner. I'm a retired surgeon, and for the past 15 years, I've been focused on a single mission: helping doctors get more of what they want from their lives and less of what they don't. I'm firmly on doctors' side, and because money plays such a powerful role in physicians' lives, my work also includes helping financial advisors understand how doctors actually think and decide and experience trust so that they can serve physicians ethically and effectively. Everything I'm going to share today comes from that lens. Now, doing tasks yourself instead of paying somebody is always an option. You can clean your own house, fix your own dripping kitchen faucet, or file your own taxes. I'm a DIY gal myself. I love home improvement shows. More than once, I've taken on remodel projects, like the time I took a sledgehammer to the sheetrock to expose the brick of the original fireplace of my house built in 1930. Then I decided to take out the French doors that separated the dining room from the den. I thought it looked great. However, the next morning I came downstairs to find the dining room ceiling bowing. I immediately called my contractor, who told me that the French doors were load-bearing structural elements. He advised a trip to Home Depot so I could buy 2x4s to help carry the load until he could install a header. DIY projects can be exhilarating and sometimes risky. When it came to my home remodel projects, I didn't know what I didn't know. It turns out that sometimes free can be very expensive. Remember the exposed brick? When the inspector came by to sign off on the header, he said that I could not have an exposed non-functional fireplace. I wound up hiring the contractor to rewrap the fireplace in sheetrock. Doctors are highly capable DIYers. However, physicians respect an ethical boundary that limits our DIY professional activities. We know that we do not treat ourselves or the people we love. Sure, sometimes the boundary is crossed. If you asked a physician, have you ever prescribed antibiotics for a UTI outside of the formal doctor-patient relationship? The answer is often yes. One day my mom called me and told me she was in the ER with a gallbladder attack. She told me that the doctors said that she needed her gallbladder removed and asked if I could come out and do this for her. While I was flattered in my mom's trust in me, I had to say no. I wasn't licensed to practice medicine in Hawaii. I didn't have privileges at this hospital. Now, those are barriers that can be overcome, as I discovered when I volunteered to treat patients in the path of Hurricane Katrina. But the most important reason I say no, it's that emotions can cloud judgment. My mom would be the best served when a surgeon who had professional distance operated on her. And what does professional distance mean? It means that this doctor can stay in their prefrontal cortex. They can use excellent judgment. When the patient is somebody that you love, you run the risk of triggering the basic survival response. The best solutions to the challenges that arise in the OR are not managed by freezing or fleeing or fighting. Now, what about DIY wealth building plans? We know about half of doctors embrace this strategy. The number one reason physicians cite is the challenge of finding a financial advisor they can trust. Others say they have a greater sense of control if they're in charge of their money. It feels safer. Sometimes physicians consciously weigh the pros and cons of working with a financial advisor and conclude they're better off alone. They think, let me take the fees I would give a financial advisor, invest those funds, and in the end, I'll be better off financially than if I worked with a financial advisor. Well, let's dig in and explore that argument. Now, just to be clear, the question is not whether doctors can manage their money. Of course they can. It's whether doing so is truly in their best interests. As you look at whether you're better off with or without a financial advisor, the question ultimately comes down to this: what is the rate at which your net worth grows under these two conditions? And what factors impact the rate? When the economy is thriving, it's easy to see good returns on investment. It's easy to do a DIY wealth building plan. And when are investors most likely to make mistakes that erode wealth? It's when they experience losses. The evolving field of behavioral finance says that real people don't behave like ideal investors. If you're wondering if this is important, consider this. Over the past 20 years of Nobel Prizes awarded in economics, 7 celebrate work in behavioral finance and behavioral economics. If I run the risk of making decisions based in emotion, if I operated on my mother, imagine how vulnerable investors are to making mistakes when they experience losses or face financial triggers. Money is tied to core survival and safety. The nervous system can respond to financial losses as the modern-day saber-toothed tiger. It propels us to fight or freeze or flee in the face of threats. Those actions inevitably result in expensive financial choices. Some disciplined doctors can put guardrails in place to make good choices in the face of losses. However, this requires extraordinary discipline. So, the question is not whether doctors can manage their own money. It's whether doing so puts them in the best position to build wealth. Now, when it comes to wealth building, better off sounds like a results question. Returns, net worth, progress. But in real life, people also ask questions about their experience building wealth. When doctors work with professional financial advisors, they feel more clarity as they make decisions versus the confusion of a DIY plan. When they work with a financial advisor, the future feels more manageable, not overwhelming. And when they work with advisors, many of them feel more capable, not smaller. And that's true value, whether you're a patient sitting on the exam table, a physician deciding whether to trust an advisor, or even an advisor deciding whether a professional relationship is healthy. Look, every financial advisor knows what it's like to be a patient. You know what it feels like when a doctor walks in rushed, or a doctor doesn't listen, or a doctor jumps to conclusion, or a doctor makes you feel foolish for asking questions. Every doctor knows what it's like to be a trusted professional and know the responsibility of holding uncertainty and explaining options and not substituting your judgment for the patient's values. They create the condition in which good judgment is more likely. So when doctors sit across from financial advisors, They're not just evaluating competence. They're asking, do you practice your profession the way I practice mine? Now, doctors often say that their financial goal is to build wealth faster, to increase the rate at which their net worth grows. This is a velocity. But here's the problem. Our bodies can't feel velocity. If you're in a car, you look outside, you see other cars moving. You don't know whether you're stopped and the other cars are moving or they're stopped and you're moving. What we can feel is acceleration. We feel it when the elevator drops and our stomach lunges up. Your body knows something just changed. Financially, people experience better off the same way. Physicians working with professional financial advisors report shifts even before the numbers change. Sometimes clients experience acceleration the moment they realize, I'm not alone with this anymore. It's like trying to walk through deep sand or water or quicksand and then stepping onto a solid pavement. Nothing measurable has changed, but everything feels different. You have somebody to run ideas by, someone who understands the terrain, somebody who can slow catastrophizing before it runs away. That felt sense mattered. For my breast cancer patients, the hardest time wasn't hearing the diagnosis for the first time. It wasn't the surgical intervention or even the chemotherapy. The hardest time was the window of waiting, the stretch of days between discovering a lump or hearing about the abnormal mammogram and getting the biopsy results back. Most patients can tolerate almost anything. What's hardest is being alone during stressful times and living in uncertainty, because uncertainty invites catastrophizing. In that window, patients don't think, I wonder what the pathology will show. They think, am I going to die? Will I see my kids grow up? What if everything falls apart? For a patient, that's where a trusted physician matters. Not because they have the answers, but because the patient is not alone with the uncertainty. And that's also where many doctors live financially. Not bankruptcy, not failing, but stuck in a waiting window. What if I never retire? What if I outlive my money? What if I end up living in a van down near the river eating donuts, with apology to Chris Farley? What if I have to move in with my adult children? An advisor doesn't eliminate uncertainty, but they can contain it. Everything I've been describing so far has a name. It's the power of shared decision making. And that's what the True Wealth Way is all about. The True Wealth Way is not about products, it's not about tactics, and it's not telling people what to do. It's helping individuals make better decisions that lead to action, that help them get more of what they want and less of what they don't. Because the people we serve, whether they're patients or doctor clients, don't just want agency for their own sake. They want different results. Sometimes that result is feeling less alone, sleeping better at night, not catastrophizing every unknown. And sometimes that result is hitting the numbers, or retiring with dignity, or paying for the grandchildren's education, or having the freedom to choose how they live and work. For doctors, this question is about safety and clarity. For financial advisors who serve doctors, it's about whether your present reduces or amplifies uncertainty. For both, the answer isn't immediate. It's felt over time. Now, if you found value in this content, please share it with others. And if you're listening to this episode because somebody you trust shared it with you, that in itself tells you something about how they think about their responsibility.